community and the issues faced by that community. Now, to celebrate those, the Awesome 50 annual list, which celebrates inspirational LGBTIQ Africans, has been released. The hashtag Awesome 50 annual list really just is a platform aimed at celebrating and honoring all Africans. The list includes 50 people from around the African continent whose work directly and indirectly impacts the lives of the LGBTIQ community. Well, through human rights, media, politics, corporate, social and civic development, academia, health and other areas. But to tell us more in studio, we are joined by Motlatsi Motseoile, who is the curator of the list, as well as Ricki Kgositau, who is a transgender activist from Botswana, who's also been recognized for her work as the executive director of Accountability International. Guys, it's so great to have you on Morning Live. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Motlatsi, let me start with you. Why was it so important for you to honor the LGBTIQ community through this Awesome 50 list?
At its very core, the list tries to basically say that people are doing amazing work on the continent, and knowing the kind of ideas and the kind of challenges that LGBTI people on the continent have, it was important for us to then say, how do we then say that these people who have sacrificed their lives, who are doing certain work that actually advances the rights and protections of LGBTIQ people across the continent, and then basically say to them, you are doing well, so let's celebrate you, whilst you're risking your lives if you perhaps you are in Nigeria or say Uganda, where we know the kind of violations that are faced. Exactly. Yeah. So to basically say to those people, you're doing well and we see you and recognize you, so continue doing the kind of work that you do.
All right. Ricki, you are just one of the most amazing people I've ever come across, because you actually took your own government back in Botswana to task to say, hey, you need to pay attention here. People who would like to amend their sex or sexuality, yeah, they should be allowed to do that. Tell us about just what were some of the most challenging things about going through that process.
Thank you so much. I think at the top of the struggles, I mean, it was a 7-year battle. In just trying to affirm the fact that I'm a woman, and secondly to ensuring that then the recognition that I would get wouldn't necessarily be one that just speaks to me as an individual, but recognizing that we live as a community of transgender persons in Botswana, many of us who do not even come from a background of support that I've had. I think the biggest challenge had been on government's failure to recognize how 7 years of somebody laboriously working to just be recognized legally is something that takes a toll financially on them, emotionally, mentally, and even physically, considering that I live in Cape Town, working for Accountability International based in Cape Town. So traveling back and forth between Gaborone and Cape Town was not necessarily an easy thing for the past 7 years. But I think as well, there was quite a lot of support, quite a lot of media practitioners who were very interested in actually covering the story, quite a lot of support from the church and from family. So I would also want to point out the fact that there was quite a lot of support around me, but government kept on moving the goalposts. In one point, I think 2015, government had intended on abiding by the court's decision. Somewhat in 2016, 2017, government's position changes to that of opposition. So you can try and imagine how that takes a whole lot of mental strain, where in one position you're thinking that we are about to attain what we're seeking insofar as the protection for fundamental constitutional rights, and government at one point feeling that you do not have a case, yet it is a fundamental right for every person to determine themselves.
Indeed. Motlatsi, Ricki is just one of many people featured. Just take us through some of those names that are on the Awesome 50 list, and just maybe 1 or 2 contributions done by them.
I mean, the most interesting thing about the list is that, sadly, because of the kind of continent we live in, you try and find as many people across the continent doing work. And not to say that there aren't people in other countries, but then the bulk of the list actually will feature South Africans. But we've got certain people who are doing amazing work in Nigeria. We've got Pamela Adi, who's from Nigeria. We've got Dennis Nzioka, who's a journalist, and doing amazing work in terms of highlighting the violations against LGBTI people in Kenya. We've got Zimbabweans, we've got Mozambicans like Danilo de Silva, Eva, who's the founder of Lambda in Mozambique, who's been doing amazing work, who coincidentally actually got married in South Africa because of the laws in South Africa, in Mozambique rather. So we've got a number of amazing people who are doing work across sectors. Most of them are fortunately enough actually doing human rights directed work. We've got people in Botswana as well, like Ricki and others in Botswana. We've got other people in Kenya, Zimbabwe, Nigeria and Ghana, and we actually have a Kenyan national but who's based in the US. Her name is Mwende Katiwa, who's also doing amazing work in the written word and speaking sphere.
Very quickly, Motlatsi, where can people get a hold of the list and where can they get more information?
So the list is currently being circulated across LGBT-owned media, and we are hoping it will advance into mainstream media. But then the site for the list will actually go live on the 20th. It's going to be on the Awesome 50, that's the awesome50.africa from the 20th of October.
Ricki, let me close off with you very quickly. Your message to governments across the African continent. How can they do better in order for them to see you, to recognize you, and to honor people like you?
I mean, like you pointed out, every single individual is inherently born with human rights by virtue of them being human. And many of our states are signatory to the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. All of our African states are signatory to the African Charter on People and Human Rights. And all these instruments foreground the need to actually not delineate any kind of human rights, that they are universal. And inherently by so saying, it means that the right of every LGBTI person to found a family is one that cannot be curtailed. The right to be able to attain education, the highest quality of health care, those are also rights that are fundamental that should not be curtailed for any person. So I think it's important that our governments recognize that they are failing on their responsibility and mandate to uphold these particular policies and national instruments that have been set, such as our constitutions, that are meant to safeguard these rights. And a failure to do so, we will hold our governments accountable.
All right. Wow, guys, thank you very much, and all the best going forward. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
That was Motlatsi and Ricki talking to us just about the Awesome 50 annual list. Of course, Motlatsi shared the details on how you can get your hands on it. It is currently circulating. But now it is time for a quick break. Stay with us.